Karina Bharne is the interim executive director with the San Antonio Symphony, and they've been in the news a little bit for a while. Bharne previously served as the vice president and general manager of SAS from 2014 to 2017. Before that, she had been director of orchestra personnel from 2011 to 14. Also has served as a manager of orchestral operations at the Aspen Music Festival and School. Before coming to San Antonio, she worked for the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. This past summer, she joined the Go Ballet Academy in Vancouver as the managing director of operations before coming back to San Antonio Symphony in mid-January when they needed some help, I am told. Bharne holds a Bachelor of Fine Arts. You don't see this a lot, but in trombone performance, as well as a Master of Arts Management from Carnegie Mellon University, and is an active volunteer with SNPSA and the San Antonio Feral Cat Coalition. This is a Renaissance woman. Please give it up for Karina Bharne!
Hello, everyone. When I was in the 5th grade, my music teacher said we needed to pick instruments so that we could all play in the band. He played excerpts on everything from the flute to the timpani, and at the end, we were given 2 days to decide which instrument we wanted to play. During recess, I asked my friends to see what they were going to choose. No one said they were going to pick the trombone, so I chose it naturally so I could be the best. About a week later, I lugged the trombone home from school. I was fascinated. I still remember everything about it, from how heavy it was to the feel in my hands. Any trombone players out there? Yep. Well, you'll know this one, that well-loved Rental's brass smell, the slide oil. And from that day on, I was hooked. I loved everything about classical music. I didn't consider making music my career and thought I would take the same route that my practical parents did, deciding to go into the sciences, becoming a nurse or a doctor, raising a family in my hometown of East Brunswick, New Jersey. But in the 8th grade, I had a truly inspirational band director, Mr. Perez. Mr. Perez inspired me to make music my career and to dedicate my life to this performing art. When I proudly told my father, an immigrant who was born and raised in Goa, India, who traveled to the United States in search of a better life for his family, that I was going to Carnegie Mellon University to study music, he looked at me and said, "What does that mean?" He then told all of his coworkers that I was going to school for engineering. My career as a trombonist afforded me the opportunity to play music all over the world, whether it's in Quebec, Italy, Cleveland, Washington, D.C., or even right here in San Antonio, Texas. I've taken the trombone with me on so many journeys, and music not only has transported me all over the globe, it's also helped me be more organized, think outside the box, and shown the positive effects it can have on people. I was almost finished with my undergraduate degree when I made the switch to consider a different avenue of music making or working on the other side, management. So I enrolled at Heinz College's Masters of Arts Management program, and of course a full-time job with a steady employment would appease my father, but I also thought I might be able to make the most impact on patrons and the community this way. Quickly, I switched my focus and received my master's, interning and working all over the country from Pittsburgh to Aspen, Virginia to Vancouver. Eventually, I ended up at the San Antonio Symphony, San Antonio being a place that I have proudly called home for the better part of 7 years. When I was home recently this winter, I asked my father to go see a concert with me with the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra was putting on. I was excited. I hadn't heard my hometown orchestra in years and thought this would be fun. Before I even got the details of the event out, he said, "Why would I want to go? The music is boring and it's going to last 3 hours. I'd rather sit at home and watch CNN." He continued that he didn't want to have to get dressed up. His suit wasn't dry cleaned. He was also afraid that he would be out of place, stating with complete certainty that there is no classical music in India. That's where I began to realize that he didn't have any idea as to what I did or what an orchestra can actually do. It was time to educate my father. The argument then ensued about how symphonies are much more than an elitist group of musicians playing music by dead people with men in tails and women in gowns. The first thing that popped into my head were recent rock concerts. So I said, okay, well, if you aren't interested in listening to Mozart, well, we just did a concert performing the music of Led Zeppelin. I then asked my father if he was more of a Police fan himself. Did you know that their drummer, Stuart Copeland, loves working with symphony orchestras and recently played a concerto for drum set with us? Stuart not only played the drum set, but he also wrote the piece. This was probably the most unconventional performance where Stuart literally jumped over the risers to get to his seat. Not only do we collaborate with musicians, but we also collaborate with dancers. Every year, we collaborate with Ballet San Antonio for the Nutcracker and also with the Guadalupe Dance Company. This year, we also partner with the Children's Ballet of San Antonio for a set of young people's concerts in the fall, performing excerpts from A Midsummer's Night Dream. In addition, we're also able to be relevant and meaningful within our community. We attempt to reach every student in Bexar County by presenting student concerts not only at the Tobin Center, but also at other venues like Steele High School, Southwest High School, Judson ISD, and of course, even down to Beeville, Texas. Anyone from Beeville here? Nope. In May of each year, we present one special Young People's Concerts that is a partnership with Carnegie Hall. 9,000 students will prepare the entire year learning to sing and play the recorder. And did you know 83% of students attending are of a minority background, and 67% come from economically disadvantaged backgrounds as well. So by now, I've gone over quite a bit more of what we do besides playing classical music in the concert halls. But we are also out in the community playing to smaller crowds at the zoo, at the public library, and museums. We have even done pop-up concerts at HEB locations during Christmas time. Still not convinced, I reminded my father that a symphony can also do performances with many different types of people, like acrobats, magicians, contortionists, and aerial artists. How cool would it be to see an acrobat flying over the audience while accompanied by an orchestra? Or watching two strong men painted completely in gold balance on each other's heads. At this point, I was growing desperate, but I did know that my dad had a soft spot for the movies, specifically for Harry Potter. So I reminded him that the orchestra is also playing the soundtrack for the Harry Potter movies and asked for one final time if he was still not convinced that what we were doing is not boring and stuffy. At this point, I saw a small grin, and I knew that I had won the argument. So reluctantly, he agreed to go see the concert with me, but insisted that if I was going to make him go, that we needed to get a drink beforehand, and then further insisted, of course, that I pay. It goes without saying that my dad did enjoy the performance and told me that he was looking forward to watching Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban with the orchestra when he comes to visit me next. So, Dad, no. Classical music and going to the symphony does not have to be boring. It also doesn't have to be 3 hours long with men in tails and women in gowns, but it can be. And sometimes it can even captivate your attention more than watching CNN on loop after work. We love inspiring both young and old, from immigrants like my father to nerdy, aspiring musicians, hands still smelling like their used trombone and pants stained with slide oil. I hope that the last 6 minutes and 30 seconds have shown you how much a symphony can do for the residents of San Antonio. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to ask the question that when I'm sure people find out that you're the interim director now, you get a lot. Hey, how's it going at the symphony? Are you doing okay?
I think we're doing pretty good.
Good.
What are you guys
Microphone
doing
in
this
the
weekend?
audio world.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We have concerts coming up this weekend at the Tobin Center, Beethoven and Brahms, and if that is not your thing, following week we have La La Land in concert at the Majestic. So there's stuff for a variety of people.
What is it like going to, as you put it, the other side from playing the trombone and now marketing and fundraising and making sure people know it's not just stuffy and boring aside from just your dad? I mean, it's a tough sell sometimes.
Convincing my father to do anything is really difficult, but it's definitely been a big change. My entire career has been in the other side, or the dark side as people call it, but for me it's what's best for my personality. I have actually a lot of performance anxiety, so doing this was really difficult. So while I could never play trombone professionally in an orchestra, I have a lot of respect for all the musicians on stage that can, but I would much rather be on this side of things.
And now they talked about this season, this year is going to be quote unquote limited, or shortened somewhat.
It's shortened somewhat. The rest of the season, we were supposed to be at 30 weeks, and right now we're at 26.
And next year?
And we are planning next season. We are going to be announcing our 2018-2019 season very soon, hopefully the first week in March.
And how about the fundraising? I was reading when we had all these stories on the symphony about in Europe, it is expected that the community supports a symphony. It's seen as an asset. Here, not so much.
Well, I think people here do see the symphony as an asset, and I think if you follow any of the news stories, especially January 8th on, you've seen that the community has really stepped up in support, and we are so lucky and thankful to have an amazing board chair, Miss Kathleen Vale, who is in the audience, who has garnered support, a lot of support for the symphony.
I guess I meant when they don't see it as an asset, I mean like taxpayers don't see it as much. Are you working on that? Like getting more tax money to help you out?
We're working on everything right now, from fundraising to marketing to making sure that we have to also be out in the community and showing what we can do.
And do you still get to play the trombone?
I do sometimes, but after I moved to Vancouver over the summer, I am quote unquote in retirement.
Oh, give it up for the retired trombonist, Karina Bharne. Good luck with the symphony.
Thank you.